Hi, this is your host. This is Alligator Week here at our channel. In all this week, we are going to be busting myths about alligators. Irigon Na be talking about what is fact and fiction when it comes to these toothy reptiles. So let's start off with our first myth. Alligators can only live in salt water. Now that may seem like a pretty easy myth to just go ahead and bust, but there are some facts to back it up. It turns out alligators are actually more like salty water than fresh water. They need a certain level of salt in their system in order to survive. So they can't live in just any old freshwater lake or river. They need it to have a certain level of salinity. In fact, American alligators can often be found in brackish water, which is a mix between fresh and salt water. Where do you find brackish water? Near the ocean. So that means American alligators can definitely live in salt water, but it's not their preferred habitat. They don't like it when the salinity gets too high. American alligators are actually more closely related to marine iguanas and crocodiles than they are to the Chinese alligator, which can't tolerate salt very well at all. Fun fact, the Chinese alligator is considered a critically endangered species. There are only about 200 to 300 individuals left in the wild. So if you want to help save an alligator, maybe adopt the Chinese alligator. Now let's talk about where alligators can live. They need some salt in their system to survive, then they must live near the ocean, right? Wrong. That's another busted myth. Alligators can live far away from the ocean in lakes and rivers. Just need to have a little bit of salt in their system. It's called hyposmotic regulation. Basically, alligators get most of their water from their food, which contains salts and other minerals that they need. When they sweat, they lose those salts, so they have to replace them. Scientists aren't exactly sure how alligators replaced their salts before humans started dumping salt in the water. But they think maybe they would eat salty plants or lick salty rocks. Speaking of sweating, that's our next alligator myth. Alligators sweat. Just like us, alligators can sweat, but they don't sweat like us. Humans sweat to cool off, but alligators sweat to get rid of excess salt. You know how when you sweat, you've got all those salt and water mixed together dripping down your face? Well, alligators have a special gland near their eyes that excretes a salty liquid. Then they absorb the water back into their bodies and voila, they got rid of their excess salt. Another busted myth. Alligators don't stick their butt in the air when they walk. But some alligators do, and that's because they got a big old secret to hide. Now I'm going to tell you all about it after we hear from our sponsor. Thanks to our sponsor for supporting this Fun Fact Friday. Now back to our show. When an alligator waddles, you might notice their butt is in the air. And you might think they look like they've got a big secret to hide, and you'd be correct. See, alligators have two sex chromosomes just like us. Females are either XX or XY, and males are either XY or XZ. Yep, you heard me right. They have an X and a Z chromosome. And that's different than any other species on planet Earth. We don't know exactly why they have two different male chromosomes, but it may have something to do with their reproduction. Since females are the ones who decide the baby gator's sex, all female alligators have two X chromosomes, while males can have an X and an X, or an X and a Z. Next time you see an alligator, take a good look. If its butt is in the air, chances are it's male. But remember, if you see a female alligator with her butt in the air, she could be carrying a clutch of eggs. Sometimes the weight of those eggs makes her rear end sag, so it is not always easy to tell whether an alligator is male or female just by looking at it. And speaking of looking at alligators, make sure you look below to see what kind of alligator you are. Are you a snooper? A loner? A socialite? Maybe you're a thinker. There are all kinds of alligators out there. Find out which one you are by clicking below.